Every morning you say something to yourself, whether you notice it or not, and that inner conversation is shaping your confidence, your income, and the quality of your entire day. I want you to really take that in for a moment. The first thoughts you allow into your mind are like the opening lines of a script that your brain will follow for the next 24 hours. Most people wake up and hand that script to chaos. Their phone lights up before their eyes are even fully open. Messages, stress, obligations, old fears, immediate reactions. They start the day already behind, already tense, already surrendering their mental power to whatever demands them first. And they repeat this routine day after day, wondering why nothing changes, why they still feel stressed, uncertain, reactive, and overwhelmed. Top performers live a completely different inner reality. They don't start the day by reacting. They start by directing. They pick their first thoughts with the same intention and discipline that a pilot uses before taking off. They know that what happens inside their mind in the first 5 minutes will determine how confidently they lead, how effectively they work, how calmly they respond, and even how much money they earn in the long run. Neuroscience confirms something ancient wisdom has whispered for centuries. Whatever you focus on the moment you wake up becomes the mental lens through which you interpret everything else. If you start with doubts, your brain hunts for problems. If you start with clarity, your brain hunts for solutions. If you start with fear, your brain hides. If you start with intention, your brain builds. What you tell yourself in the first 5 minutes after you wake up will decide how much money you earn, how much peace you feel, and how fast you grow this year. And this is not exaggeration. This is self-leadership. When you control your inner dialogue, you control your emotions. When you control your emotions, you control your actions. And when you control your actions consistently, you control your destiny. Over the years, I've had the privilege of speaking to hundreds of leaders, entrepreneurs, millionaires, top salespeople, and high achievers. And I can tell you that they don't start the morning with random thoughts. They start with chosen thoughts, the kind that set them up to win. They speak to themselves the way a wise mentor would speak, with clarity, encouragement, direction, and determination. In this video, you will learn 10 powerful things to tell yourself every morning to feel in control, calm, and highly productive. 10 simple declarations that act as mental programming for success, confidence, and inner strength. These aren't vague wishes or empty motivation. These are the exact types of statements that high performers use to ground their focus, activate their purpose, and take ownership of their lives. When you apply them, you'll begin to notice a quiet shift inside you. You'll feel sharper, more intentional, more certain of what you want and why you're moving toward it. You'll start responding to challenges with perspective instead of panic. You'll find yourself making decisions faster, speaking more confidently, and working with a sense of flow that comes from having your mind aligned before the world demands anything from you. My name is Tracy, and for decades I've dedicated myself to studying personal achievement, self-discipline, strategic thinking, and the psychology of success. I've coached thousands of people across the world, and no matter where they began, the same principle held true. Your life improves the moment your self-talk improves. When you speak to yourself with clarity and confidence, your life begins to organize itself around those qualities. When you speak with fear and doubt, the same thing happens in the opposite direction. Every great change begins inside. Every breakthrough begins in your internal dialogue. And every morning offers you a new opportunity to write that dialogue consciously. So I want you to stay with me because in just a moment, I'm going to give you 10 specific morning declarations used by leaders, entrepreneurs, and high achievers. These statements have helped people rebuild confidence after failures, break through income ceilings, reshape their productivity, and cultivate a sense of inner peace even during stressful seasons. And if you're serious about designing your life, not just surviving it, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications. You and I will be working together often, and I want you to have access to every tool that will help you grow faster and think more clearly. Before we move on, I want to talk to you directly because I want you to really understand the weight of this moment. You stand at the doorway of a new day every morning. The world is neutral. Your circumstances are neutral. Your responsibilities are neutral. What makes the difference between a good day and a frustrating one is the state you choose as you enter it. Most people never choose. They allow their thoughts to drift in the same old direction, creating the same old results. They hope circumstances will change while repeating the same mental patterns that created those circumstances in the first place. But you're here. You're listening. That already places you among the small percentage of people who are willing to take responsibility for their mindset, their habits, their success, and their future. When you take control of the very beginning of your day, you send a message to your brain and your life that you are in charge. You're not hoping to have a good day, you're creating one. You're not waiting for motivation, you're building it. You're not playing defense, you're leading. And the mind responds to leadership. When you give it a clear command, it follows. When you give it a clear identity, it behaves in alignment with that identity. This is why the first thoughts matter so much. They're not random, they are instructions, and your brain is always listening. As you hear the 10 declarations coming up, I want you to imagine yourself stating them with intention every morning. Picture the shift in your posture as you wake up with clarity instead of confusion. Picture the way you begin to walk into your responsibilities with a sense of direction instead of feeling scattered. Picture the calm that comes from starting your day with a centered mind rather than a frantic one. Picture the way your productivity increases when you stop wasting mental energy on hesitation, doubt, or internal noise. This is the power of conscious self-talk. Stay with me until the end, because I'll show you how to turn the 10 phrases into a simple 60-second morning ritual that you can practice no matter how busy you are. And I'll also give you a bonus declaration that very few people ever use. It's one of the most powerful statements I've ever taught, and for many people, it has changed not just their mornings, but the entire trajectory of their year. You are about to gain something that many people go their entire lives without realizing: the ability to choose the direction of your mind before the world chooses it for you. And once you master the direction of your mind, everything else becomes possible. The way you enter your morning determines the way you enter your life. Every day, from the moment you open your eyes, you are standing at a crossroads. You can choose to begin in a state of clarity, direction, and calm power. Or you can slip unconsciously into the same reactive pattern that keeps most people stressed, distracted, and behind. Your morning is not just a routine, it is the single most influential psychological window you will experience in the next 24 hours. Your mind is open, your emotions are forming their baseline, and your inner narrative is deciding whether you will lead the day or be led by it. What are you saying to yourself right now? That question alone reveals the entire architecture of your morning mindset. Most people underestimate this early window. They assume the day will shape itself. They don't realize that the very first thoughts you allow into your mind act like wet cement. Whatever impressions land during those first minutes harden and become the tone for everything that follows. If your first input is noise, stress, or distraction, your mind adopts that as the default pattern for the day. If your first input is intention, discipline, and self-leadership, your mind will follow that direction with surprising loyalty. The contrast is vivid. A reactive morning feels like stepping into a river that pulls you off your feet. An intentional morning feels like standing on solid ground while the world moves around you. Which of the two are you stepping into? For thousands of years, the wisest people understood this truth. Marcus Aurelius began his mornings reminding himself that he would meet people who were irrational, selfish, or ungrateful. He didn't do this to complain. He did it to prepare his mind. He knew that if he set his emotional posture first, Nothing external could shake it. He was programming his inner world before the outer world had a chance to interfere. The question is, are you doing the same for yourself each morning, or are you letting the world decide the quality of your day before you've even had a chance to think? Consider Viktor Frankl in the darkest circumstances imaginable. Every day, stripped of freedom, he still held on to the only power nobody could take from him, the power to choose his attitude. That decision, made repeatedly in the morning and again throughout the day, became the difference between emotional collapse and inner survival. If a man in a concentration camp could claim his morning mindset as his own, what excuse do we have when our greatest challenge is a phone full of notifications? And then there is Admiral James Stockdale, who survived years as a prisoner of war. He discovered that his internal dialogue each morning determined whether he could remain mentally strong despite the torture and isolation. He realized something profound. The world can cage your body, it can restrict your movement, it can take away comforts and freedoms, but it cannot imprison your thoughts unless you give it permission. He refused to give that permission. Ask yourself, are you giving that permission away every day to social media, endless news, or the priorities of other people? Today, the threats to your mindset aren't as dramatic, but they are far more subtle. You wake up and the first battle you face is the screen in your hand. Before you have a chance to breathe deeply or think clearly, your mind is already being shaped by someone else's priorities. You scroll and your brain begins comparing, fearing, reacting. You read the news and your emotional tone shifts to worry. You check messages and suddenly you feel rushed or obligated. Without knowing it, you have handed full control of your psychological state to the world before you have even stood up. What is the price you pay for this? Stress, confusion, scattered energy, and a sense of being behind before the day even begins. High performers refuse to start their day in this reactive way. They prepare their mind the way an athlete warms up before competition. They know that the world will always demand something from them, so they anchor themselves first. They decide deliberately how they will think, how they will feel, how they will act. They understand a simple truth. If you don't intentionally program your mind in the morning, someone else will do it for you, which means your entire day, with all its opportunities and challenges, is built on someone else's script instead of your own. Think for a moment. What would your life look like if every morning you entered the day with clarity instead of noise, calm instead of anxiety, direction instead of reaction? Imagine the difference in your decisions, your conversations, your productivity, your confidence. Imagine how much lighter you would feel. Most people never experience this shift because they never change the beginning of their day. But here's the encouraging truth. You can change tomorrow morning. You can change it completely, and the effects will compound faster than you expect. Your morning is the psychological launching pad of your entire day. When you start with intention, your mind becomes stronger, more resilient, more focused. When you start in a reactive way, your mind becomes scattered, defensive, and exhausted before noon. Which version of yourself do you want to live with? That small decision you make in the first 10 minutes determines more of your life than most people ever realize. Now ask yourself another question. If your first thoughts are shaping the quality of your entire day, shouldn't those thoughts be deliberate, empowering, and aligned with who you want to become? Shouldn't they be designed to strengthen you rather than weaken you? Shouldn't they help you rise rather than collapse? You will discover something remarkable when you begin to shape your mornings intentionally. The world starts responding differently to you because you are showing up differently to it. And here's another small insight you'll appreciate. Your brain is most suggestible right after waking up. Whatever you feed it becomes the emotional and cognitive template for the next hours. This means you don't need complicated rituals or hour-long routines. You simply need clear mental conditioning. A few sentences repeated with conviction can shift your entire physiology. The first 3 alone can cut your stress in half. Yes, really. because they give your mind something better to follow. That is why I want to give you 10 simple sentences you can repeat every morning. They are practical, grounded in psychology and experience, and they reflect how the world truly works. If you repeat them consistently, you will notice an immediate difference: more calm, more focus, more strength, more direction. This is the moment where you take your morning back. This is the moment where your day begins on your terms. Every morning before the world begins to demand your attention, you have a brief window of absolute power. It is a moment when you can decide what kind of person you will be for the rest of the day. Most people never notice this window. They wake up and immediately hand control of their emotional state to circumstances, to other people, to noise, to distraction. But you are choosing something different. You are choosing to take back command from the very first breath of the morning. And it begins with 3 simple declarations that shape your internal world long before the external world tries to shape you. The first declaration is the cornerstone. I am responsible for how today feels. When you say these words, you are doing something rare and powerful. You are separating responsibility from blame. Responsibility does not mean you caused every situation. It means you retain the ability to choose your response. Viktor Frankl wrote that the last of all human freedoms is the ability to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. This idea is more than philosophy. It is practical psychology for your everyday life. The moment you accept full responsibility for your emotional experience, you cut the cord that ties you to the moods and behaviors of others. Most people go through their day as emotional victims. They get upset because of traffic, irritated because of a message, frustrated because of the weather, tense because someone looked at them the wrong way. Their emotional life is outsourced to randomness. When you repeat, I am responsible for how today feels, you reclaim the authority they give away. You stop waiting for the world to be perfect before you feel grounded. You stop reacting like someone who has no choice. You return to the truth that you always have a choice, and with choice comes freedom. The second declaration reinforces this power. Nothing can disturb my peace without my permission. Imagine your inner peace as a fortress. You are its gatekeeper. Only what you allow through the gate can enter. People will shout from outside. Circumstances will rattle the walls. Unexpected events will appear at the door, but they cannot cross the threshold unless you open it. Marcus Aurelius wrote that you have power over your mind, not outside events, and that understanding this truth is the source of real strength. When you internalize this, you stop trying to control things that were never yours to control. Instead, you focus on guarding your inner domain. Throughout your day, there is always a moment, a small pause, between the event and your reaction. That pause is where your true power lives. That pause is your advantage. It is the difference between a person who reacts impulsively and one who responds thoughtfully. Each time you repeat, nothing can disturb my peace without my permission, you expand that pause. You train yourself to step back, observe, and choose. You build emotional stability the same way a craftsman builds a masterpiece. Through repetition, through attention, through intention. The third declaration completes the foundation. Today I focus only on what I can control. When you live by this statement, anxiety melts into clarity and energy turns into action. The Stoics spoke often about the circle of control. There are things that belong to you and things that do not. Your thoughts, your actions, your effort, your attitude, those belong to you. Everything else lives outside your circle. Most of the emotional suffering people experience each day comes from trying to control what was never theirs to manage. They worry about what others think. They stress about outcomes they cannot influence. They fear possibilities that may never happen. But when you redirect your attention to what is actually under your command, you become centered and effective. You move from feeling overwhelmed to becoming productive, from feeling lost to becoming purposeful. You trade anxiety for focus. You trade fear for movement. You trade rumination for action. And in a world full of distraction and noise, focused action is a superpower. These three declarations are quick switches. Each one flips your mind from reactivity to responsibility, from chaos to calm, from anxiety to control. They work because they align you with fundamental psychological principles: your ability to choose, your ability to guard your inner world, your ability to act where your actions matter, and they must be practiced in order because the later ones depend on the first. Don't skip ahead. The rest of your emotional mastery only works when you begin from responsibility. Responsibility is the key that unlocks all the others. When you speak these sentences out loud, you transform them from ideas into commitments. Place your hand on your heart if it helps you connect with them. Look at yourself in the mirror if you want to deepen the impact. The important thing is that you speak them with intention. Say them slowly. Feel the meaning behind each word. Let them settle into you like seeds planted in good soil. In less than 2 minutes, these three declarations can turn a chaotic morning into a calm and focused one. They can change the tempo of your entire day. They can remind you that you are not a passenger. You are the driver. So take a moment, breathe, repeat the sentences, reflect on them. Notice which of the three resonates with you the most today. And if you want to strengthen your commitment even further, share it. Tell me which declaration you need most right now. Your answer might be small in appearance, but each small affirmation of responsibility becomes a step toward the life you truly want to create. When you and I talk about performance, resilience, and the ability to move through life with confidence, we always come back to the same foundation: the way you speak to yourself. The declarations you repeat are not simply sentences. They are internal blueprints. They become the patterns that guide your behavior when no one is watching. And in moments of difficulty, they become the difference between someone who breaks and someone who bends, learns, recalibrates, and moves forward even stronger than before. This is why these next three declarations matter so much. They form what I often call the performance pack, the inner programming that eliminates self-doubt and destroys procrastination at its roots. These are the declarations that separate the people who wish from the people who act, and the people who act from the people who achieve. The first is simple but profound. My worth is not measured by today's outcomes. When you absorb this truth deeply, you free yourself from one of the greatest traps that ambitious people fall into, tying their identity to what happens today. Seneca wrote about this long before any of us were here. He explained that life is full of exiles, failures, and sudden changes of fortune, and none of them have the power to define who you are unless you give them that permission. When you attach your value to wins and losses, you live in a constant emotional roller coaster. You wake up feeling strong when things go well and defeated when they don't. And soon, you become afraid of trying new things, because every setback feels like a personal flaw rather than part of the journey. But when you separate who you are from what happens to you, you regain control of your mind. You learn to evaluate your actions without tearing yourself down. You understand that your worth is constant, while your results are variable. And that single understanding becomes a superpower in a world that punishes people who take risks. You become willing to try, fail, adjust, and try again, because your identity is anchored in something deeper than today's outcome. Then we move to the second declaration. I will act, not just intend. There is a gap that destroys more dreams than failure ever will, the gap between intention and action. It's the place where people say someday, where they build castles in their minds, but never lay a single brick in the real world. Successful people, the ones who build meaningful careers and fulfilling lives, understand something crucial. They act fast. They start before they feel ready. They take the first step while others wait for the perfect moment that never arrives. When you commit to acting instead of intending, you close the action gap that keeps ordinary people stuck in the same place year after year. Think of any goal you have right now. The smallest action toward it, just one call, one message, one decision, will move you further than all the planning in the world. Action creates momentum, and momentum creates confidence. Every time you follow through, you build a reputation with yourself. You train your mind to believe you are someone who executes. And when you become the kind of person who acts consistently, the world responds in ways that feel almost miraculous. Opportunities start appearing, doors open, people trust you, and life begins to shift in your favor. It all begins with acting before you feel ready. The third declaration reinforces the mindset that keeps you moving no matter what life puts in front of you. Every challenge is a chance to grow stronger. When you truly internalize this idea, adversity stops feeling like punishment. It becomes training. Admiral Jim Stockdale, who survived unimaginable hardship during years of captivity, once said that the key to survival was to confront brutal realities without losing faith that you would ultimately prevail. He wasn't romanticizing suffering, he was describing mental discipline. And Marcus Aurelius, centuries before him, told us something so powerful and so relevant today. The obstacle becomes the way. Problems are universal. No one escapes them. But the meaning you assign to them is optional. When something goes wrong, you can interpret it as evidence that life is unfair, that you are unlucky, that the universe is against you. Or you can decide that this is simply another exercise to build your capability, patience, character, and emotional strength. When you choose the second interpretation, you become unstoppable. You stop wasting energy resisting reality and start investing it in transformation. Think for a moment about how many times people have turned setbacks into turning points. I remember meeting a business owner who had spent a decade building a company he believed would be his life's work. Then the market shifted, a key partner withdrew, and in the span of 2 months, he lost almost everything he had built. For a period, he felt lost, angry, and uncertain. But once he stopped seeing the event as punishment and started seeing it as a lesson, his mind opened. He realized how many things he had ignored, how many skills he still needed to develop, how many opportunities he had dismissed because he was too comfortable. Within 2 years, he built a new company, stronger, more resilient, more profitable, and infinitely more aligned with the person he had become. When I asked him what changed, he smiled and said, "I stopped asking why this happened to me and started asking what it was meant to teach me." That shift is worth more than any course, seminar, or degree. It's the shift that turns challenges into stepping stones instead of roadblocks. These 3 declarations, your worth is constant, action over intention, and growth through challenges, are tools you can carry with you through every season of your life. When things go well, they keep you grounded and focused. When things fall apart, they keep you centered, strong, and mentally prepared. And when you practice them consistently, they reshape the way your mind interprets the world. You begin to see setbacks as information, uncertainty as opportunity, and effort as a path to mastery. You develop a kind of resilience that is rare, and because it is rare, it becomes incredibly valuable. People around you will wonder how you stay calm when others panic, how you keep moving when others freeze, how you continue growing when others give up. The answer will be simple. You trained your mind before life tested you. Before we finish, I want you to take one small step that will reinforce everything we just discussed. Write these 3 declarations on a card and place it by your bed. Read them in the morning to set your direction and at night to reset your mind. Repetition creates belief, and belief creates behavior. And if this message has been useful to you, share it with one person who needs strength today. You never know how far a single idea can travel or how profoundly it can change someone's life. When you declare that you will not compare your journey to anyone else's, you are doing something far more powerful than most people realize. You are freeing your mind from one of the greatest thieves of joy in the modern world. Comparison is subtle because it disguises itself as inspiration, but in truth, it often becomes a trap. You go online and see images of people who seem to be moving faster than you, achieving more than you, living more beautifully than you. You see victories, celebrations, highlights. What you do not see are the failures behind the curtain, the doubts they wake up with, the mornings when they questioned everything. You see their edited moments and compare them to your unedited life, and that is a game you can never win. Every minute you spend comparing yourself to someone else is a minute taken away from improving your own life. Ask yourself honestly how much time you have lost this year comparing yourself to people who are not even thinking about you. Think of all the moments you could have invested in your own growth, your own development, your own path. Your only true competitor is the person you were yesterday. That is the only comparison that serves you. You look at who you were, you identify the habit you want to improve, the skill you want to sharpen, the mindset you want to strengthen, and you take one step forward. That is progress. That is success. And that is freedom. When you finally accept that your journey is yours alone, something extraordinary happens. You begin to feel lighter. You begin to trust your timing. You stop rushing. You stop resenting others for their success because you understand that their path has nothing to do with yours. You stop feeling behind because you realize there is no race. Most people move through life feeling pressured, not because they are failing, but because they are measuring themselves with someone else's ruler. You do not need that ruler anymore. Your declaration is your shield. It protects your focus, your peace, and your energy. And now, when you add the second declaration, when you choose discipline over motivation, you step into the mindset of a high performer. Motivation is wonderful when it appears, but it is unreliable. It comes and goes like the weather. If you depend on motivation, you will be inconsistent. You will be enthusiastic in the morning and defeated in the afternoon. You will start many things and finish few. But when you choose discipline, you choose consistency. Discipline is dependable. Discipline is the force that carries you forward when your feelings try to pull you backward. Discipline is a muscle. Every time you follow through on a promise you made to yourself, you strengthen that muscle. Every time you do what needs to be done instead of what is easy, you strengthen it further. Every small action compounds. You are training yourself to become the kind of person who acts according to your values rather than your moods. Ask yourself what would change in your life if you followed through on your plans, even when you did not feel like it. Imagine how different your results would be after 1 month, 3 months, 6 months. Most people underestimate how dramatically their life can change simply by being consistent in the small things. Discipline builds self-respect. Every time you keep your word to yourself, you send a message to your subconscious mind. I am someone who can be trusted. And the more you trust yourself, the more you are willing to aim higher, take bigger steps, and challenge yourself in meaningful ways. You stop waiting for the perfect moment because you understand the perfect moment is created through action. You stop seeking external validation because discipline gives you internal certainty. You begin to realize you do not need someone else to tell you that you are doing well. You know you are doing well because you see yourself doing the work. These two declarations work together like two pillars supporting the foundation of your growth. When you stop comparing yourself to others, you clear the mental clutter that distracts you. When you choose discipline over motivation, you build the habits that move you forward. Together, they protect you from the noise of the outside world and the fluctuating emotions inside you. They give you freedom. Freedom from needing approval. Freedom from waiting to feel ready. Freedom from self-doubt disguised as comparison. Freedom from inconsistency disguised as lack of motivation. Reflect for a moment on what your life could look like if you genuinely lived out these declarations every day. What would happen to your productivity, your confidence, your peace of mind? How would it feel to wake up knowing that your direction does not depend on anyone else's pace? How would it feel to end each day with the certainty that you acted in alignment with your values? Most people never experience this kind of clarity because they never take control of their inner narrative. But you can. You already started. These declarations are simple to say, but transformative when practiced. And now I want you to imagine yourself months from now. You have stopped looking sideways. You have stopped wasting emotional energy comparing. You look only inward and forward. You act with discipline even when your feelings resist. You complete what you start. You move with clarity. You operate with confidence. You trust yourself. You wake up knowing that your destiny is created by your actions, not your moods. You walk through life with a calm sense of direction because you are no longer pulled by distraction or insecurity. This is the version of you these declarations are building: a stronger you, a clearer you, a more grounded you. A you who is driven by purpose rather than pressure. A you who knows that each day is an opportunity to advance. A you who understands that excellence is not an accident. It is a commitment you renew each morning. And now I want you to take ownership of that identity by saying the words that reinforce it. My discipline creates my destiny. Write it down. Say it out loud. Type it in the comments. Declare it so your mind begins to adopt it as truth. Because once your mind accepts a new standard, your actions begin to align with that standard automatically. You have made two powerful commitments today, and if you apply them, they will change your life. And I'll tell you this, the next two statements will change how you see your entire day, even on the days when everything seems to go wrong. Gratitude will shape how I see the day. When you say this to yourself each morning, you're not simply repeating a pleasant phrase. You're training your mind to filter reality differently. You are telling your brain, pay attention to what strengthens me, supports me, elevates me. And the remarkable thing is that your brain listens. It adjusts. It rewires. Human beings are built with an extraordinary capacity for selective focus, and whatever you choose to highlight becomes the emotional tone of the day. When you begin by acknowledging what is already working in your life, you shift from scarcity to sufficiency. You stop looking at everything that is missing and begin noticing the abundance that has been there all along. Think of the ordinary blessings that so often go ignored: the health that allows you to move through the world, the roof that protects you, the opportunities that appear simply because you are alive and aware. These things seem small only because they are constant, but in truth they are the foundation on which everything else is built. When you feel grateful for them, you expand your capacity to see possibilities. Gratitude is not about pretending problems do not exist. It is about seeing the complete picture. It's about holding reality with both hands, the challenges that push you forward and the resources that support you along the way. When you practice gratitude consistently, you strengthen your emotional resilience. You begin to interpret obstacles as signals rather than threats. And the moment you change your interpretation, you change your experience. Imagine waking up each day and immediately recognizing 2 or 3 things that bring stability or joy to your life. It could be something as simple as your morning light, the comfort of your bed, or the fact that you've lived through challenges that once felt impossible. Gratitude brings perspective, and perspective brings peace. And from peace, you create strength. That's why highly effective people make gratitude a daily discipline, not because it sounds nice, but because it's a strategic advantage. It sharpens the mind, steadies the emotions, and keeps you anchored as you navigate the pressures of the day. The second declaration is equally powerful. I will end the day better than I started. This is a master habit. It is the quiet engine behind long-term success. When you commit to improving even 1% every day, you unlock the compound effect that separates those who grow consistently from those who remain stuck. 1% doesn't feel like much in the moment, but over time it becomes a force you cannot stop. People often overestimate what they can accomplish in a week and underestimate what they can accomplish in a year. When you focus on small, deliberate improvements, you avoid overwhelm. You avoid the emotional fatigue of trying to change everything at once. Instead, you build confidence through small wins, and confidence multiplies. Seneca, the great Stoic philosopher, practiced a simple but profound evening review. At the end of each day, he asked himself what he did well, what he could improve, and what he learned. This practice remains one of the most effective tools for personal growth because it brings awareness to your decisions. It reinforces your strengths and helps you course correct without self-judgment. When you take a moment each night to reflect on your actions, you transform your experiences into lessons. You give your day meaning, and when your days carry meaning, your life becomes purposeful. Consider asking yourself these 3 questions before you sleep. What did I learn today? What did I do well? What will I do differently tomorrow? These questions create closure. They help you refine your approach and strengthen your discipline. They remind you that growth is not accidental. Growth is intentional. And the simple act of reviewing your day keeps you aligned with the person you want to become. You no longer drift through your days reacting. You move through them consciously, adjusting and improving as you go. When you combine gratitude in the morning with reflection in the evening, something extraordinary happens. No day is wasted. Even your most difficult days become productive. Hard moments reveal your character. Frustrations show you where improvement is possible. Challenges test your skill and strengthen your resolve. With these 2 declarations, you close the loop. You begin the day with appreciation, and you end it with learning. You extract value from every experience. You transform your life into a continuous cycle of awareness, responsibility, and growth. Now pause for a moment and imagine your life 1 year from today if you truly improved only 1% each day. Picture the clarity you would develop, the confidence you would build, the skills you would refine. Imagine the emotional strength you would gain simply from reflecting consistently and adjusting your actions with intention. When you commit to these small, steady improvements, you reshape your identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who hopes things will get better and become someone who makes things better. And when you align gratitude and improvement day after day, you become more resilient, more focused, more capable. You begin to attract opportunities that match your mindset because you carry yourself with a quiet certainty that others can sense. People trust those who grow intentionally. People follow those who live with gratitude and discipline. These 2 declarations position you as that kind of person. In just a moment, I'll show you how to combine all 10 declarations into a simple 60-second morning ritual that becomes automatic, a ritual you can repeat without thinking, one that sets the direction of your entire day. But before we continue, if you find value in practical morning routines and mindset tools like these, go ahead and like the video. It helps more than you know, and it tells me you want more strategies you can apply immediately to create a stronger, more focused, more successful version of yourself. You have reached the point where everything comes together. This is the moment where ideas stop being ideas and begin turning into a personal philosophy you can rely on every single morning of your life. I want you to think of these 10 declarations not as concepts or theories, but as tools you can hold in your hands. Tools that get sharper every time you use them. Tools that change the way you think, act, and ultimately the way you shape your destiny. The truth is simple. Most people wake up and fall instantly into reactivity. They check their phones before they check their thoughts. They let circumstances, notifications, and habits choose the quality of their day for them. But not you. Not anymore. When you choose a morning declaration, you are making a commitment to yourself. You are telling your mind who is in control. You are stepping into the role of the creator of your day, not the victim of your environment. Every transformation begins with a decision, and your first decision of the day is the most powerful one. I want you to imagine something. You wake up, sit up straight, and take one deep breath. Not a rushed one, not the kind that comes when you are stressed or anxious, but a deliberate breath that signals the beginning of something intentional. You place your feet on the floor, and before the world has a chance to speak to you, you speak to yourself. You read your declaration slowly. You feel the weight of each word. You don't rush. You don't mumble. You speak with the authority of someone who understands that repetition builds belief, and belief builds your future. You might choose one declaration for the day, one sentence that becomes your anchor, one sentence that becomes the foundation of every decision you make. When you face a distraction, remind yourself of your declaration. When you feel tempted to procrastinate, return to it. When you meet resistance, breathe and repeat it with intention. You will feel your behavior shift. You will feel your posture change. You will feel your choices align with the identity you are building. And identity is everything. You don't achieve success and then become a certain type of person. You become the person first. And success follows you like a shadow. People often underestimate the power of rituals. They think rituals are mechanical steps. But rituals are anchors for your subconscious mind. They instruct the brain, they refine your focus, and they strengthen your discipline. Your morning ritual, even if it lasts only a few minutes, creates momentum that carries you through the day. And momentum is the invisible force that separates those who achieve their goals from those who only dream about them. When you stand up each morning with intention, you are not just repeating words, you are reprogramming your internal dialogue. You are removing the language of excuses and replacing it with the language of leadership, responsibility, clarity, and control. Your future self, the version of you living the life you want, is shaped by these moments. The smallest decisions often lead to the greatest transformations. Every day you repeat your focus sentence, you take one more step toward the future you envision. Let me tell you something that has been true for every successful person I have coached. Success is not built on massive action taken once. Success is built on simple actions, repeated daily. The declarations you are practicing are not meant to overwhelm you. They are meant to guide you. They are the power switch of your mindset. When you flip that switch every morning, you create a day driven by intention instead of reaction. And at the end of each day, when you look back, you will start noticing how differently you handled situations, how clearly you made decisions, and how strongly you stayed grounded in your purpose. There will be mornings when you don't feel motivated. That is inevitable. But motivation is not the point. Discipline is the point. And these declarations train discipline. They are small promises you keep to yourself, and each promise strengthens your self-confidence. Confidence doesn't come from what you have. It comes from what you repeatedly prove to yourself. When you follow this ritual, you are proving something important every morning, that you are in control, that your mind listens to you, that your day is yours to shape. I want you to take a moment and imagine your life 6 months from now if you commit to this simple practice. Imagine the clarity. Imagine the consistency. Imagine how many unnecessary thoughts and distractions will stop controlling you. You will look back and realize that it all began with one simple habit, practiced every morning. And that habit began with a decision to speak to yourself with intention. Now let me guide you toward your next step. You are building a new standard for yourself, and I want you to reinforce it. I want you to subscribe, like, and comment with your favorite declaration. And write these words in the comments. I control my morning. I control my day. When you commit publicly, even in a comment, you strengthen your accountability. You tell yourself that you are serious. You tell the world that you are stepping into a new identity. And identity shapes behavior far more powerfully than willpower ever could. Share this video with someone who needs a new beginning. You never know how one small message can change the direction of someone's life. The right words at the right moment can awaken a person who has been asleep to their own potential for years. Be the reason someone else starts their transformation too. And here's my promise to you. In the next video, I will take you step by step through a complete 15-minute morning routine that integrates every one of these declarations with goal setting, planning, and focused reflection, so you can multiply your results and build unstoppable confidence. If these declarations are the ignition, that routine is the engine. Together, they will give you everything you need to create the life you've imagined. Your future self is watching you. The version of you living the life you want is observing the choices you make each morning, and that version of you is waiting for the moment you decide to start. Today can be that moment. Make the decision. Read your declaration. Stand tall. Breathe deeply. Begin your day with intention, and your future will unfold in ways you once thought impossible. Subscribe, like, and comment. And remember your sentence: I control my morning, I control my day.